The galaxy is old. So very old. Its spiral arms are dusted with the ashes of empires that rose on pillars of light and fell into silent cosmic graves. We, the Every, are among the eldest of the current races. We have watched stars ignite and die. We have charted the silent, black voids between galaxies. We have built cities that spiral like crystalline music towards the heavens. And we remember. We remember the progenitors, the first ones. They seeded life across 1,000,000 worlds before they departed for a realm beyond our comprehension. And as their final gift, they left a prophecy. Carved not in stone, but in the quantum fabric of reality itself, whispered by the spin of distant pulsars. It spoke of a time of great shadow, a consuming darkness they called the entropy swarm. A wave of non-being, a devourer of space, time, and life itself. And the prophecy foretold of a savior. The Terran, the Star Child. A being of impossible light, who would not fight the darkness with weapons of destruction, but with a single pure act of creation. A being whose very essence would defy the void. For eons, we searched. We scoured the data streams of 1,000,000,000 worlds, analyzed the genetic codes of countless species, waiting for a sign. We never imagined the beacon would ignite in a forgotten sector, on a planet classified as marginally habitable, high volatility. A world its inhabitants called Earth. And when our long-range scanners pinpointed the source of the prophetic resonance, when our most revered mystics confirmed it, our entire civilization let out a collective, shuddering breath of disbelief. The Terran was a human child. The air on Avar Prime tastes of ozone and sorrow. Our world is a masterpiece of elegant despair. Our spires, grown from living crystal, catch the light of our dying sun, casting long melancholic shadows. The entropy swarm is not a myth. It is a blot on the edge of our deepest telescopes, a creeping necrosis in the fabric of spacetime. Stars are winking out, one by one, and the silence that follows is louder than any supernova. I am Scholar Kalen, first among equals of the Every Conclave. My skin is the color of twilight, my elongated form draped in robes woven from starlight and data streams. I stood on the Grand Landing Plaza, my multifaceted eyes watching as the Terran transport shuttle descended. It was a brutish thing, all hard angles and roaring chemical propulsion, a stark, ugly contrast to our silent anti-gravity skiffs. The ramp hissed open, and the humans emerged. 2 of them. Adults. 1 male, 1 female, clad in simple, functional clothing. They moved with a jarring animalistic grace, their eyes scanning everything with a disconcerting alertness. They were tense. We had explained the situation, the prophecy, the fate of the galaxy. They had agreed to bring the child, but their posture spoke of a deep primal distrust. And then between them, she appeared. Her name was Lily. She was small. So fragile-looking. Her skin was pale, her hair a messy tangle of gold. She clutched a worn stuffed toy, a vaguely animal-like creature with one button eye missing. Her eyes, wide and blue, held none of the ancient wisdom we expected. They held only the simple, unvarnished curiosity of a child seeing something new. A ripple of dismay passed through the assembled conclave. Our communication was primarily telepathic, a subtle weave of thought and intent, but the shock was so profound that whispered clicks and whistles of our spoken tongue escaped a few. This is the source of the resonance, thought High Seer Valerius, his mental voice a blade of ice. This infant? Its biological readings are primitive. Its cognitive patterns are undeveloped. It is a creature of base emotions and needs. The progenitors must have been mistaken, another thought echoed. Or we have misinterpreted the signs. This cannot be the Terran. I pushed my own doubt aside. Welcome to Avar Prime, I said aloud, my voice a soft melodic chime. I am Scholar Kalen. We are grateful you have come. The male human, David, gave a short, tight nod. We're here. As agreed. His voice was a low rumble, a sound of gravel and resolve. The female, Sarah, placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. Her well-being is our only priority. Lily, meanwhile, was staring at the crystalline floor, which glowed with a soft internal light. She took a tentative step, then another, and giggled as the floor pulsed faintly beneath her foot. The conclave recoiled. A giggle. In this place of solemnity, on the eve of oblivion, that sound was profane. The resonance is strongest in its presence, Kalen, Valerius transmitted to me privately. But it is a quiet, simple light. It cannot possibly counter the absolute nullity of the swarm. This is a fool's hope. The prophecy is clear, I responded, though my own conviction wavered. We must have faith. We led them to the citadel of echoes, the heart of our prophetic science. The chamber was a vast, domed space where the walls were not solid, but a swirling vortex of captured starlight and quantum probabilities. In the center hovered a holographic representation of the galaxy. A vast, creeping stain of absolute blackness was slowly consuming the Perseus arm. The entropy swarm. The sight of it was a physical weight on the soul. Lily looked up at the map, her head tilted. She pointed a small finger. The big dark is getting bigger, she said, her voice small in the immense chamber. David knelt beside her. Yes, sweetie. That's why we're here. To make it go away? We hope so, Sarah said, her voice thick with the emotion I could not quite place. It was not reverence. It was fear. We began our tests. We scanned Lily with instruments that could map the consciousness of a star. We measured her bioenergy, her neural activity. The results were baffling. The resonance was there, a unique signature woven into her DNA, a song of creation that matched the progenitor's song. But it was dormant. It was a seed, not a forest. We tried to stimulate it. We surrounded her with harmonic frequencies, with light designed to resonate with her soul. Lily simply sat there, patient for a while, then bored. She fidgeted. She asked for a drink. She showed her stuffed toy the pretty lights. The despair in the citadel deepened. Valerius finally spoke aloud, his voice brittle with frustration. It is useless. The child does not understand. It cannot access the power. The prophecy is a lie. David stood up, his face hardening. She's not a nit. Her name is Lily. And she's 5 years old. What did you expect? For her to wave a magic wand? We expected the Ketharan, Valerius retorted. We expected a being of power and light. Not a juvenile primate with a toy. The air grew cold. Sarah pulled Lily closer. We're leaving. This was a mistake. You cannot leave. Valerius's voice rose to a shrill pitch. The swarm is weeks away. Billions of lives depend on this. On a child. David shot back, stepping forward. On my child? You dragged us across the galaxy because of some ancient fortune cookie message, and now you're angry she's not a god? We're done. It was in that moment of escalating conflict, as hope seemed to shatter on the floor of the citadel, that Lily did something unexpected. She had been watching the angry Every, her lower lip trembling. She walked away from her mother, right up to the towering, irate Valerius. She looked up at his furious, chiseled features, and she held out her stuffed toy. Mister, she said, her voice small but clear. Mr. Binks is sad. He says don't be angry. It makes your face all scrunchy. She wiggled the toy, making it perform a little clumsy dance. The absolute stunned silence that followed was more profound than any sound. High Seer Valerius, who had debated the nature of reality with cosmic entities, was being offered a one-eyed stuffed toy by a human child as a solution to galactic annihilation. He stared, dumbfounded. The anger seemed to drain from him, replaced by a kind of cosmic bewilderment. He did not take the toy. Lily, undeterred, placed Mr. Binks carefully on the floor at his feet. He can stay with you. He's good for hugs when you're scared. She then turned and walked back to her parents, taking her mother's hand. That simple, illogical, compassionate act, it was the first crack in our certainty. We did not leave. A tense, fragile truce was brokered. The humans were given quarters in the citadel. We, the conclave, continued our futile attempts to decipher the prophecy, to find some key we had missed. The days turned into a week. The swarm advanced. And during that time, Lily just lived. She was a whirlwind of chaotic, gentle life in our sterile, ordered world. Our citadel was a place of quiet contemplation, of whispered thoughts and gliding movements. Lily ran. She sang nonsense songs. She asked a million questions. Why is the sky purple? Why do you have so many fingers? Do you have a mommy? We Every do not have mommies in the same way. We are decanted from genetic matrices. The concept was alien. Her parents, David and Sarah, were her constant anchors. David, an engineer by trade, would spend hours explaining how starships worked to her in simple terms. Sarah, a botanist, had managed to smuggle a few seeds past our biosecurity, and she showed Lily how to plant them in a small pot of soil she brought, telling her stories of green, living worlds. We observed it all. It was distracting and confusing. One afternoon, I found Lily sitting in one of the meditation groves, talking to a young Every acolyte named Tail. Tail was brilliant, destined for the conclave, but shy and rigid in his thinking. He was trying to explain the principles of metaphysical energy transfer. Lily was drawing on a data pad with her finger. So, Tail said, his voice patient, the energy must be focused through the third cognitive lattice, you see? Otherwise, it dissipates. Lily looked up. Like when you try to carry too many cookies and you drop them? Tail blinked. I suppose the analogy has a certain structural parallelism, but it is far more complex. My mommy says if you have too much, you should share, Lily said, and went back to her drawing. She had drawn a lopsided, smiling sun next to a stick figure Every. Here. This is you. You're happy now. She showed him the picture. Tail stared at it. Every do not draw. Our art is photorealistic holography or complex mathematical music. This was crude, primitive. Yet, the simple smiling sun was undeniably warm. Tail, for the first time I had ever seen, gave a small hesitant smile in return. Thank you, Lily, he said. It was a small moment. Insignificant. But it was another crack. The real turning point came during what the humans called a tantrum. Lily was tired. She missed her home, her room, her friends. The oppressive atmosphere of the citadel was getting to her. She began to cry. Not the quiet tears of sadness we had observed, but a full-bodied screaming, flailing storm of emotion. The conclave was horrified. Such a public, uncontrolled display of feeling was vulgar. It was a loss of control, a descent into chaos. We watched from a gallery as Sarah scooped the screaming child into her arms. She didn't try to silence her. She didn't administer a sedative or use a neural calmer. She just held her, rocking gently, humming a soft, repetitive melody. I know, baby, she whispered, her voice a steady rock in the storm of Lily's feelings. I know you're scared. I know you're angry. It's okay. Let it out. Mommy's here. I've got you. David stood by, a solid, silent wall of support, his hand on Sarah's back. The storm eventually subsided, leaving behind hiccuping sobs and then, exhausted sleep in her mother's arms. Valerius watched the entire scene, his expression unreadable. Later, he approached me. Their method of conflict resolution is inefficient, he stated. The energy expenditure was immense. The disruption to order was total. Yet, I replied, watching the human family, now a picture of quiet peace, the conflict was resolved. Not suppressed. Resolved. The child felt her emotion, expressed it, and was met not with resistance, but with absorption. Her parents absorbed her chaos and returned calm. A fascinating if wasteful dynamic, Valerius mused, but for the first time, there was no scorn in his voice. Only a dawning, profound curiosity. We had spent millennia perfecting the suppression of negative emotion. We believed chaos was the enemy of order, and order was the only path to survival. These humans, they did not suppress chaos. They embraced it. They weathered it. They loved each other through it. It was the first hint that what we saw as weakness, their emotional volatility, their irrational attachments, might be something else entirely. It might be a strength we could not comprehend. The swarm was now visible from a Var Prime's surface. It was not a fleet of ships. It was an absence. A great, black rip in the starfield, a patch of nothingness that was slowly eating the constellation of the Celestial Weaver. The very light from the stars behind it was gone. Sucked into non-existence. The air grew colder. A psychic dread, a feeling of impending erasure, pressed down on every mind. Panic began to ripple through the Every populace. Our perfect order started to fray at the edges. It was decided. We would evacuate. A last, desperate exodus. We would take the humans with us, a final, fading hope we no longer believed in. The day of the evacuation, the Citadel was a controlled frenzy. Data cores were being uploaded, artifacts secured. Lily and her family were being escorted to a command ship. We were in the main hangar, the roar of engines a dull whine in the thin air. Lily was holding her mother's hand, her small face pale. She was watching the Every around her, seeing their fear, their silent, desperate efficiency. She saw a young acolyte, the same tale from before, trip and drop a precious crystal data sliver. It shattered on the deck. Tale froze, horror on his face. In our society, such a mistake was a profound failure. He expected censure, disgrace. Before anyone could react, Lily let go of her mother's hand. She walked over to the shards, knelt down, and started carefully picking up the pieces. She couldn't put it back together, but she gathered them in her small hands and held them out to Tale. "It's okay," she said, her voice barely a whisper, but it cut through the hangar's noise. "You can fix it. Or you can make a new one. It's still pretty. It sparkles." She was offering him not just the broken pieces, but absolution. Hope. Tale took the fragments, his hands trembling. He looked from the broken crystal to Lily's earnest, compassionate face, and something in him broke. Not in a way that meant breaking, but in a way that meant opening. A dam of suppressed emotion gave way, and a single shimmering tear, a thing almost unheard of among our kind, traced a path down his cheek. In that moment, a brilliant, gentle light erupted from Lily. It was not a weapon. It was not a blast. It was a field. A sphere of pure, warm, golden light that expanded from her small body, flowing outwards in a silent, gentle wave. It passed through the hull of the ships, through our bodies, through the very walls of the citadel. And where it passed, the creeping psychic, dread of the swarm, vanished. The cold lifted. The oppressive weight was gone. The panic in the hangar ceased, replaced by a stunned, profound peace. We felt safe. We felt hopeful. On the view screens, the edge of the swarm, that absolute blackness, stopped. It did not recede, but it ceased its advance. It was as if the nothingness had encountered a wall it could not cross. A wall not of force, but of is. The entire hangar fell into a silence, so deep you could hear the hum of the ship's own atoms. Lily looked around, seemingly unaware of the light that had just emanated from her. She saw Tale's tear, and her own face grew concerned. "Don't be sad," she said, and she hugged his leg. The light intensified for a moment, a warm pulse of pure, unadulterated compassion. Valerius sank to his knees. I felt my own legs go weak. We had been looking for a weapon. A key. A switch. We had been trying to activate her. We were fools. The power wasn't something to be activated. It was something to be expressed. The Ketharan was not a warrior. It was a healer. The prophecy spoke of an act of creation to counter the swarm's act of destruction. We thought that meant creating a new star, a new planet. We thought too big. Lily's act of creation was smaller, and infinitely more powerful. She created connection. She created comfort. She created hope. In a place of despair, she offered a hug. In a place of cold logic, she offered a shared feeling. She was a focal point for the most fundamental creative force in the universe, a force the progenitors understood but we, in our ancient wisdom, had forgotten. Love. Not the abstract concept. The raw, messy, illogical, powerful action of love. The willingness to share a toy with a stranger. To draw a picture for a friend. To forgive a mistake. To hold someone while they cry. To love so fiercely that it becomes a light that pushes back the dark. The swarm was entropy. The end of all things. The heat death of the universe given. Form. And Lily. Lily was life. Not just biological life, but the spirit of life. The stubborn, resilient, caring, chaotic, and beautiful will to live, to connect, to care for one another against the dying of the light. The human child was not a savior because of some power she possessed. She was a savior because of what she was. The swarm did not vanish that day. Such absolute nothingness cannot be undone by a single act, no matter how pure. But it was halted. Contained. Lily's resonance had created a buffer, a zone of reality so potent, so saturated with the affirmative power of is, that the is not of the swarm could not penetrate. We cancelled the evacuation. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Lily did not perform great miracles. She simply lived among us. She played. She learned. She loved. and her presence, her very nature, began to rewild our sterile world. Every children, once kept in creches of perfect order, began to play. They started drawing pictures. They laughed. Their parents, at first apprehensive, found themselves smiling in return. The great spires of our cities, once silent, now sometimes echoed with the sound of human songs, sung by every and human voices together. David and Sarah became teachers. They taught us about humanity, about our resilience, our flaws, our boundless capacity for both destruction and creation. They taught us that our greatest strength is not our technology, not our knowledge, but our communities, our families, our ability to stand together and say, "You are not alone." I stood with Valerius on the observation deck, looking out at the galaxy. The swarm was still there, a dark scar, but held at bay. In his hands, he held the one-eyed stuffed toy, Mr. Binks. "I was wrong, Kalen," he said, his voice soft. "We all were. We searched the cosmos for a god, and we found a child. We sought a divine weapon, and we were offered a toy. We believed salvation would come from power, and it came from a hug." He looked down at the toy, a profound humility in his ancient eyes. "The progenitors did not give us a savior. They gave us a lesson. They gave us a mirror. They showed us that the power to defy the void has always existed. It exists in the simplest, most fundamental act of connection. It exists in every single human being. They are not a perfect species. They are fractious, emotional, and often irrational. But they carry within them a light that the darkness cannot comprehend. A light that says, 'I am here. You are here. We are together.' And that is enough." We watched as, in the garden below the citadel, Lily was teaching a group of every children how to make daisy chains from glowing bioluminescent local flora. Her laughter rang out, a sound of pure, unvarnished joy. The every children, their movements clumsy at first, began to imitate her, their own more melodic laughter joining hers. It was a new sound for our world. A beautiful sound. The prophecy was fulfilled. Not by a grand cosmic event, but by a small human one. The Star Child had not brought a sword of light. She had brought a spark of warmth. And that spark was enough to kindle a fire that would keep the cold at bay for now, and for all the tomorrows to come. Valerius looked at me, and for the first time, I saw not a high seer of an ancient race, but simply another living being, humbled and grateful. "Scholar Kalen," he whispered, the starlight reflecting in his eyes. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. If this story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars.